Whoa and welcome. On today's video we're going to be creating this foam tankard which will hold a Coke can, soda can, whatever you want to call it, and in the summer months we'll stop it from getting warm. Also because it's got a handle on it, it'll stop your hands from getting cold. So let's get to it. So I'm going to be using 8mm high density foam for the majority of this build. You could use 10mm, you could probably use 6, but 6 would be pushing your luck. It might be a bit thin to hold the weight of a full can. So here I'm just sort of marking out the edges of the actual main tube. I did make an error here because I forgot to allow for shrinkage when I heat up the foam. So you'll see later I've added an extra bit onto the length of it. Okay, you can see me sharpening the knife there. It's always important to keep a sharp knife with foam. You get a lot straighter cut, and it's just better. Nothing dulls a knife quicker, almost nothing, than foam does. I don't know why, it just does. So here I'm heat treating it just to curl it. And this does two things: it heats up the foam to allow it to be more pliable, and then when it cools down it retains the shape to a degree. It shrinks it slightly so all the pores get a bit closer in. So for the glue I'm using a contact cement. It doesn't matter really which contact cement you use. This particular one's an evil stick. I'm actually putting 2 coats on this because I wanted it to be a strong bond, so the first coat would soak in and then the second coat would actually make the bond. Now you do have to allow contact cement to dry fully, usually about 10 minutes. You can see there that extra strip I was talking about earlier. Now this bit I'm actually marking out where I want the planks of the tankard to be, and then I will cut that using a scalpel rather than a craft knife, because I'm only going about halfway through the foam. And you get a lot more control with scalpel. Again, you want it to be sharp so you're cutting the foam rather than pulling it. So when it folds up, as I'm sticking it together, if you start at one end and work your way down, you can pull the foam a certain degree. You can see when it's round, the planks opened up slightly. So this is the metal bands that go round the edge of the tankard, and this is 2mm foam. I'm also using this, I'll cut the rivets out of later as well. So 2 bands, centimetre wide. You can also see at the bottom of the screen I've also done the base of the tube, which I'm just gluing now. Now I have got a new tripod on order, which means I'll be able to bring the camera further up into the air, so I won't have to keep remembering to keep putting it in shot. Okay, so the handle, I've just basically made an arbitrary size that should just fit. I'm going to double up on the size, so rather than 8mm it's going to be 16mm. Whilst that's drying, the circle at the bottom has fully dried, so I can put that into the bottom of the tankard. Squeeze it all together, make sure there's adequate contact so that it will fully dry. Just sketching out where I think the handle should be. Don't like that idea, so I'm going to bring it further down. That looks about right. I want it to be about 1mm thick all the way around, so I'm just marking that out. So you don't have to be precise, it's just me being a bit anal. Again, sharpen the knife before you start. You don't have to follow the curve on outside curves because you'll be sanding it down anyway. I'm using the craft knife on the straight edge, both of them, but for the curve I'm going to be using the scalpel because you can get a better curve to it. I'm not going through in one go. Take your time, you can take as many passes as you like. Yeah, that fits my hand quite nicely. So what I'm doing here, although you can't quite see it, is I'm actually marking where the handle will go. This is because when I'll glue the bands on, I know where I want to put the glue. So I'm marking here where the bands go, you can see those dots there, and then the lines. This has two purposes. One, it will show me where I want the glue for the bands, but also when I start carving in the plank details of the wood, I finally remembered I had to show the camera, it'll show me where I don't want to carve. So this is the rotary saw. This is just a stone bit. Basically I'm just using this just to get rid of the rough bits and bobs left from the cutting, inside and outside of the handle. You have to be quite gentle using a rotary tool, because if you're too heavy-handed with it, you'll carve huge chunks out that you don't want to, and you have to start again. So I'm also rounding over the edges here, just so it's not a 90-degree corner. Stone bit on these is actually quite a gentle sanding medium. Later on I'll be actually using a proper sanding disc to carve. That you have to be really gentle on, because that will really get down gouges. So this is a sanding drum. So all I'm doing is just making wood grain effects on the side and on the top, but if you notice, I'm not going inside those lines where I want glue to go, because if I create gouges, then there's not going to be as much surface area for the glue to react to. So this is the actual wood grain. You don't want them straight lines, you want them a little bit wavy, and you remember occasionally wood has a knot hole in it or whatever, so don't want them perfectly straight, you don't want them equidistant, just freehand it, eyeball it however you want to do it. I also do the bottom, but I don't think I'll show that on camera, and obviously the handle as well. Gluing the handle on first, and after that I'll start gluing the straps on. I want to be careful here not to put too much tension on the foam, because as I say, it will stretch very slightly. Just checking that, putting some pressure on there, make sure the contact glue adheres correctly. Now I said earlier that I made rivets out of 2mm foam. All I used on that was just a standard hole punch. And to fix these on, I'm not using contact cement because it gets very messy when you're doing stuff this small. I'm just using standard super glue. You will see that I changed the super glue halfway through because this is old stuff and wasn't really sticking properly. And I'm basically putting those in the centre of where each plank is. This is almost it is the last step of the actual manufacture. For some reason known only to the IT gods, the footage I got of me painting was corrupt. I don't know why, so I'm going to have to explain how I did the painting side. So to paint it, all I did is I started off with 2 coats of watered down PVA glue, watered down to the consistency of milk. 2 coats because the first coat soaks in, and the second coat then seals it. Then I did a complete full-on proper black coat, which you can see into the depths of where the wood grain effect is. Then I dry brushed brown over the top, and then dry brushed again the same brown but with some white mixed in to make a lighter brown colour. So this is the completed product.